Hey guys, today we're going to take a look at how Solemartyr Script works. The most important thing to know about how Solemartyr Script works is how websites work when you try to order products from them. What happens is you go to the product page that loads a product form that you eventually submit to somewhere on the website. In this case, you're going to the sneaker page and a product form loads. This form gets submitted to the Adidas server, and the Adidas server gives you back a cart. So what Solemartyr Script does is he takes out the product page and he just creates this form and he submits it to the Adidas server, or you submit it to the Adidas server and you get a cart back. This is easy enough for a simple shoe where all that's required is the size, the quantity, and a little bit of hidden data, but nothing that's too hard to get. So let's use Solemartyr Script to generate a cart request for this shoe. All we need to do is put in the SKU, because this is a hard to get shoe. There aren't that many safeguards on it because it's not limited. So I can just submit those values and I can create injection code for this shoe now. So I'm going to get a size 12, why not? And it just created this magical code that will allow me to buy this shoe. So let me go run this real quick. Let me make sure I'm getting a... Alright. Let me go to this page. In fact, let's not even go to this page. It could be anywhere on the site. And let's go type in this code. Alright. So what just happened? We just created that form, this product form, that we're about to send to the Adidas server. So this was a little hard to see because Solemartyr Script is extremely hidden, or it hides all of the elements, but let's start removing some of these hidden types and see what was actually put in this form. Seek out hidden. And wow, take a look at that. The product ID of the shoe that was put in the form. That was one of the things that was hidden in the product form that's going to be put into this. And then there's a whole bunch of other hidden values, and I'll show you how he got these later, but let's just focus on the script for now. You're probably wondering why the inject didn't run right away. That's because this portion of the code creates a form. So it's creating a form element right here. And what it does is it creates this form, and then the next line of code submits it before you even have a chance to view what it looks like. So I've actually edited this code a little bit and made it so that all of the elements are visible. So if I run this in the console, you can see the entire form. Now, the next line of code would submit it, so I'm just going to press the submit button. There we go. That's a standard, easy enough to understand cart request from Solemartyr Script. But things get a little more tricky when there are protections against bots. So let's move on to the next concept. So now we have CAPTCHAs. CAPTCHAs make this a little bit messier, but not too bad. The way that CAPTCHAs work is you'll typically have an element imported from Google's CAPTCHA server. And this CAPTCHA will be identified with a site key. So we can look through and we can find the site key that identifies this CAPTCHA specifically. And that's why you need a CAPTCHA in order to correctly solve, or you need a site key to correctly send inject requests for Yeezys, because Yeezys all have CAPTCHAs. So that's easy enough. I just solved the CAPTCHA and now that gets submitted too. The way that happens is when you're solving this CAPTCHA, you're actually interacting with Google's CAPTCHA server. When you solve the completed CAPTCHA, that Google server creates a key for you that says this guy solved the CAPTCHA within the past 2 minutes. that hasn't been used yet. And that's what the Adidas server is checking for when you submit this new CAPTCHA key along with your product form. So that's easy enough. But now you're probably wondering, all right, so that accounts for the SKU, the locale. I mean, I don't want to submit to EU, obviously, but that doesn't account for the CAPTCHA duplicate field name, the client ID, and all these other weird settings. This is where Yeezys make everything complicated. If it wasn't Yeezys and it was that easy, all you'd have to type in would be that. Just the site key and just the SKU. But it's not that easy. The CAPTCHA duplicate field name, by looking through the source code, we can see that literally all it is the CAPTCHA response being submitted twice in two different elements. The first one named the standard GCAPTCHA response, which you can actually see where this response code gets submitted. It's kind of strange. There's a little box right here. Under every CAPTCHA, there is a response box where the response code goes. So he puts the response code in that box, or an imitation of that box, and sends it off. But the duplicate field is normally, this box is named GCAPTCHA response. It has the ID GCAPTCHA response. But what the duplicate is it's another text area very similar to this that has its ID randomized. And all this is to further make it harder to send these fake requests without getting to the product page. But still, if it was that easy, we'd just type in the code of the CAPTCHA duplicate field name and it would be easy as hell. Client ID. Now, usually when you send a request to the Adidas server, you're sending it to a section of the Adidas server that is labeled by its client ID. There's a default client ID, and then there's like a client ID for the specific Yeezy release, and they change it every Yeezy release, so it needs to be updated every time there's a release, and it needs to be found out. It's relatively easy to figure it out if you look through the page source to find where the client ID is, but essentially what it's saying is send my request to the right part of the server, and that's what the client ID is for. And they essentially dedicate a special section of the server just for the Yeezy release. Inventory endpoint timeout. This is for stock lookups. I'm not going to go into this. And then what are these? So setting cookies. There are other things besides form elements that can get submitted when you submit to the server. Other things such as cookies and... So let me go to my next slide. So basically, Yeezys are intentionally programmed in a way to make it difficult for people to send these fake requests without going to the product page. That's because the product page is trying to do more than just generate a form request now. Now, when we go to a Yeezy page, we need an HMAC, and we need other things that are purposefully put in to screw with the Solemartyr script. For instance, last release, there was a line of code on the source that would just set a random cookie for no reason. That would just try to screw with it. If you didn't have that cookie, you couldn't submit the request. It didn't do anything besides sit there and be a deterrent for the script. But using this box, things like that can be accounted for. The script URL, essentially what that is when you get on the product page from the splash, you're not allowed to send these cart requests unless you have the authorization to do so on a Yeezy release. That authorization is known as the HMAC. The way you get that authorization is by getting onto the product page. And that product page gets the HMAC from some random script on adidas.com during release day. And this location will change, or they might just change the method of generating the HMAC altogether. But for right now, it's been a remote script. So if that remote script is found, it gets put here, and essentially what happens is it will go to that remote script to generate the HMAC before trying to send this request. So that's generally what happens with Solemartyr script. Hopefully that explains somewhat simply what how Solemartyr Script works. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Uh, Thanks for watching.